Hi everybody, it's Allison with the Everyday Scrapbooker, dropping in today to share with you a new card making technique. You only need a couple tools in order to try this out. Of course you need paper, but you're also going to need an embossing folder. Any embossing folder you have works great. You'll also need embossing ink, embossing powder. You can use any powder that you want. And an anti-static tool as well, just to prep your paper before you emboss. You can also use, to embellish it, any stamp set you want. I chose a new one from close to my heart. It's part of a special and it's called Whimsical Holiday. So all I'm doing right now is just trimming my paper down. It's white cardstock. I trimmed it to about 3 by 4 inches and I'm just priming it with my anti-static pouch. Next, I'm grabbing my embossing folder and I'm going to cover the embossing folder with the embossing ink. After I made this video, I discovered that you're always going to want to use the side of the embossing folder with the company logo on it. So I used a close to my heart embossing folder. You can see it on the left hand side of the folder. That's the side of the folder that you're going to want to cover with embossing ink if you want the positive image to be embossed on your paper. If you don't care and you like the negative portion being embossed, then you can use the opposite side. But just a little trick that I learned while I was doing this. Okay, so now that you've got the paper inside your embossing folder, you're going to run it through your embossing machine like you would any other time. I used a Cuttlebug because that's what I have. So I ran it through my machine, and once that was done, I applied gold embossing powder. And then you're going to want to cover the entire piece of paper that you embossed. And then apply heat to the paper like you would normally when you heat emboss. So basically, the idea behind this technique is you're rolling 2 different embossing styles into one. So you're dry embossing, but you're also heat embossing at the same time in one simple step. And then once you see the gold starting to set, it changes color there. Isn't it a satisfying feeling? I love it. It's the best part of heat embossing. Once that's done, you can see that I got the negative impression from the embossing folder rather than the positive. That's really what I was aiming for, but obviously didn't get it. Which is fine because both sides really do look great. I'll have pictures at the end of the video to show you the difference between the positive and the negative impressions when they're done. They both really do look fantastic, but my personal favorite is using the positive side rather than the negative side. To clean your embossing folder is really simple. I used my close to my heart chamois at first, but then I noticed that it left little bits of blue like pilling behind. So I just grabbed a baby wipe and cleaned up my embossing folder that way. I also like to take an old tea towel, just a rag basically, that is dry, and dry it off just to be sure I've gotten everything and it's ready to go for the next time I want to use it. All right, well, let's make a card using the paper that we just embossed. I pulled out some craft cardstock and I'm going to trim that down. And then I'm going to layer some sangria cardstock on top of that as well. All the products that I'm using today to create this card is close to my heart. I will include those down in the description box below this video, as well as a link to my close to my heart shop if there's anything that you need to stock up on. So there's the sangria and the craft. I'm just layering those together, making sure first, of course, that they line up. And once I'm happy with that, then throw some adhesive on the back of it and I'm going to layer those together. Next, I'm going to layer the embossed paper on top of the sangria. Don't those colors look great together? And the paper that we just embossed with the gold embossing powder and embossing folder looks like gold foil paper that you bought from the store. But the secret is you made it yourself. So amazing. I just love it. And why stop at embossed embossing? Why not emboss some more paper as well? I'm going to take another bit of craft cardstock. I'm going to prep it with my anti-static pouch, and then I'm going to stamp in white embossing ink, pigment ink, pardon me, from Close to My Heart. I'm going to stamp the word joy from the Whimsical Holiday stamp set on the craft cardstock, and then heat set that with my heat gun as well. Once I've got that done, I'm just going to tear the paper a little bit and glue that onto the card front, and with that I'll pretty well be done the card. It's a really super simple technique and a super simple card to go along with it. Of course, when you stamp in white pigment ink, you're going to want to follow up with your white embossing powder. I think you could probably use clear as well, and it will work just as well. I personally like the white on white just to make it that much more vibrant and vivid. So I'm using my handy dandy little clothespin to hold my paper so I don't burn my fingers when I heat emboss. And then I'm going to trim that little bit of craft cardstock down and tear the one edge of it to give it sort of a rustic vibe. I'll be adding a couple foam squares to add some dimension to the card, to the back of that little strip of craft cardstock. And voila, my friends, this card is completed. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found this video inspiring and the technique as well, and I'd really love to see what you create using it. If you try this technique out, please let me know by leaving a comment down below. And if you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know that you liked it. And if you don't want to miss anything, make sure you click on the bell. First, you got to subscribe, and then you won't miss anything from me. I'd really love if you joined me again. Oh, and if you've got the time, make sure you check out the close-ups and the other cards that I created. That will be at the very end of this video. Thanks for joining me, guys. I'll see you again real soon.